something like that.
Between 63 and 65.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it goes really up, sometimes it goes way down. But that money is spent based off the referendum that voters voted on and the criteria that we submitted, and it can only be spent for capital improvements. So as you can see there, it's for recreation, public safety, transportation, and water and sewer capital projects. So there it is. That's what we anticipate to collect in fiscal year 26 is $795,000. Without SPLOST, we would really be suffering because that pays for a lot of general fund activities, a lot. Your fire trucks, your police cars, your parks, that's what we use it in. A little bit in water and sewer projects, but mainly for general fund activities. But those are for capital projects, no personnel costs, nothing related to personnel benefits, only capital projects. That's voted on by the voters. These are all 6-year SPLOST. Next will be 19 Walton. Again, 19 Walton is, again, recreation, public safety, transportation projects, and I believe recreation, yeah, recreation's there. We collect a little bit more in Gwinnett because more of our cities in Gwinnett is based off of population. Of course, our population in Walton is greater than Gwinnett, but just a little fun fact for you, the current Walton SPLOST is estimated at $120 million over 6 years. That same time frame in Gwinnett is $1.3 billion. So it's a big difference between the two counties. Because Gwinnett has over 1 million people, and it's a huge, Gwinnett's a state of itself. It's a state within a state. People don't realize how big Gwinnett County is, but they're large. But that fund is we got interest in here, but it's $5,799,818, I believe, is the original SPLOST, but we have it $6,069,000. 25 SPLOST is next. That's the current one. 2019 ended, I'm sorry, and we're still spending that money. 2025 is a new SPLOST for Walton. You should feel sorry for Natalie for keeping track of all these. As you can see, it jumped from 2019 to 25. This year, this 6 years is $346,494. That does include a little bit of interest. So that's, again, that's used for recreation, public safety, transportation, and water and sewer. Water and sewer is going to get the most this time because we have the wonderful utility relocation that we put in here back in 2024. Anticipation of really utilities being relocated. At the time it was less than what we put in, but now it's more. But good thing is we'll have some way of paying for it if we get denied aid from the state. Any questions on SPLOST? Am I putting y'all to sleep? We're on to page 139. Solid waste is sanitation. This is a kind of a wash account we collect. We turn around, pay the company that picks up the trash. But this is your solid waste fund. It's a business account, but we do transfer money out of this fund to support general fund activities and some of waste water fund. Any questions on sanitation?
When does their new contract come out?
It would expires, I believe, September, but we're already been talking. We can talk about it there in the work session if you want on their updates, if you'd like, tonight. We can talk about it during the work session if you'd like, if you want me to bring it up, but we can talk about that.
Okay.
I'll keep moving with this. Am I good on time? Oh, no, I'm over. Next is org chart. I don't think we need to explain the org chart, but it's a requirement to have. And then page 150 starts the departments breakdown. You already saw what we put in each department, but this breaks it down to the line item. You can see that starting on page 150. And then page 224 starts the utility fund. Same thing, it breaks it down for the 4 departments, and you can see where the cost goes. Do we need to talk about those, or are we all good? Good? All right. Now we go to a big one, a hot topic maybe. 249, charge for services. This is a requirement. So all the fees that we charge that's not spelled out in the ordinance, you all have to approve year to year. That's what this is. They're pretty much all been standard. We did go up on some of these services, some that's never been increased in 20 years as far as like permits. We did do a modest increase of some $10 to $15, but the biggest service charge increase is right there, new, right there. So we'll get into the debt ratio service for the water fund because it's taking a hit, and nobody likes to talk about raising utility rates, but it is a necessary evil to keep our order in the bond and also to keep him fixing utilities because that's where that money typically comes from. But what I propose is starting fiscal year 27, so not this budget, but next budget, starting every odd budget, is that the city would approve that the rates go up based off of CPI. We all have had the CPI talked about with the your value of your homes going up with a cap. This is currently in your waste management contract. It's based off the CPI with a cap. So I would propose the same 5% cap. Currently, I think this year it went up 4.8%. It would have went up. That's what the CPI was when I looked at it. I believe it was 4.8. It might have been 4.9, but it was right at 5%. But I would say that this is something council seriously needs to adopt and set the rates because water and sewer, the costs keep going up, but yet our water rates stay the same. We just increased the water rates, you all know, last year, but prior to that, it was 2020. And back then, we were set on every 2 years of going up. So I would like to go back to that we look at this and based off the CPI that we would increase the rates with a cap of 5%. If you don't like the cap of 5%, then give me a cap, but I think you gotta look at seriously going up because it is a business that we have to fund. And I'll show you direct evidence where if you don't raise your rates, the bond will come in and raise them for you by ordinance, and that's in here. So we'll talk about debt ratio in just a second, but this is a big one for charge of services. We'll make sure you all see this and know it. Any questions on that?
Aren't you saying that we would hope this would eliminate any large increases like we had last year?
Yes.
We
I
did
mean, that's the
12% last
anticipation,
year.
but I can't tell you what your
I'm
year
saying.
brings, but this is what this would anticipate. This is something the bond asked for. We just had a huge issue with the bond rating. They were trying to pull our rating because our debt ratio fell. They asked about if we were going to raise rates. I said, no, we just raised them. And they asked me, if there's any desire to raise them. I said, I don't think so, but I did tell them it was in the budget for this coming up year, for next fiscal year. But we were seriously about to drop a credit rating because of our debt services dropped. And that's because of tap fees, only because of tap fees. We lost, from between fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25, we lost a little over 1.5 million in revenue. That's a huge number. That got the rating, it was called Moody's, who rates, that's a credit rating service, that got their attention really quick. They personally called me and asked me what was going on. We had, 3 meetings with them. But we was able to keep our rating this time. And the only thing that saved us, and I mean the only thing that saved us, was our healthy reserve. That's the only thing. And it was listed in, that rating is in this packet too. Y'all want to go over the charges, or y'all just want to look in for other?
Let me ask a question, please, Danny. If we adopt this CPI, as an assurance that it'll go up every, what'd you say, 2 years?
Every odd fiscal year.
Okay, then that eliminates the discussion and all of,
Well, city council can always stop it. Yes.
Okay,
But if you didn't make no changes, then fiscal year 27, there would be July 1, there would be an
Automatically.
increase of up to 5%, yes.
okay.
Just like with the sanitation, the rates went up this year for commercial, it was automatic. No discussion beyond because it's in the contract.
Okay.
Briefly, I don't know if you want me to get too much into it, but the planning development, they went up a little bit on their, some of their site permits. Some went up 20, I think the most was $25, but most of it was $10 or $15. These have not been changed since I've been city manager, probably since 20 years, if I had to guess. But this is part of the rewrite, is to look at the charges also to make sure. So maybe that will help us come back to y'all again with some more charges. But we did add a little bit to that, just so y'all know. Fire department went up on some other things, permits, I believe $25. Jeremy's little limb pile, he went from $35 to $45 to pick up limbs because cost of hauling that stuff off has drastically went up. But all those fees are in here, you can look at them.
I think needs to be a correction on my page 256. Under the utility fees, it says that there's a late fee if not paid after the 10th. I think that's supposed to be late fee if paid after the 10th. Is that correct? Of 10%?
Let me get to it. What section is that under? Is it under
Finance fees.
What page, Melanie?
It's 256 on mine. I just want to make sure the wording's correct.
How does it work, Natalie? Is it after the 10th, it goes late, what is it?
Yeah, but it says late fee if not paid after the 10th. So-
Okay, that's just
Yeah,
probably a
that's just
typo.
a correction.
You got that marked somewhere? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Danny, when you mentioned the limbs for public works, we're not charging for houses. You're
No,
talking about
it's when the
something different.
pile's over
Okay.
I forgot what the standard is a 6x6x6 or something.
Okay.
If it's like a truckload, he charges for that.
All right.
They don't have to do that, they can put it in small piles, but if they want it in one pickup, he does charge that.
Okay.
But that has been since 20 years, guaranteed. Really, these are all small changes, y'all can look at them. The only other new thing we put in here under utility fees is we approved it in the rewrite of the stormwater ordinance. We said that there would be a fee to, if somebody comes and says, hey, I can't do it because of hardship, and we had to get our engineer involved, they had to pay a fee. We talked about that, we just never put it in the ordinance. So it's in here, it's on mine, it's on page 273. And it says here, stormwater study from the city engineer per pond, $500. So if they want us to, oh, you're done it? Change it, then we're just getting our money back. We shouldn't have to pay for it. And then the other thing he added, and this is Brandon, was there you go, was the $3,000 capacity study. We have a lot of people call us, developers will say, hey, I want a study, or hey, this is not right, y'all need to do a study. Well, that costs a lot of money for an engineer to do a study. So Brandon has put in there, if they want one, then they can pay for it. And that is a wash. That's currently what it costs us to get a study from an engineer to look at a pump station.
They do that when they don't accept our numbers, correct?
Well, if we say, hey, we're at capacity, and they say, well, I don't know if I believe that, I want to see it, and I want y'all to do a study, or we have to do a study, then
Okay.
this is what it would pay. And then there's a sewer capacity application, that's $500. That's something Brandon's working on now, is to do an ordinance that Paul has, but it hasn't been brought to y'all yet, but we're still working on it, but that's part of it. So that's what that would be. It's just to enable the city to recoup its money when we call an engineer to come out and look at something. All right, go to 285. This is just charge for services. This is your fines and fees. This is from your court or code enforcement. Really not much to talk about, but it's what the court collects on an annual basis, as you can see, going down too. But
Why would that go down?
A lot of reasons. Law changed really after, Chief may have to speak on this, but I know a lot of stuff changed after Ferguson, Missouri with the courts. Could be because they're not writing tickets, because they're working accidents. It could be because the judge gives probation versus, but you know, it could be a multitude of things. But that's one of those things that legally I cannot discuss with staff. I can't go to the police and talk about it. I can't go to the courts and talk about it. It is what it is. That's, you know, I have to be careful what I'm saying now. Right, Chief? You think Chief here? There, he gives me a thumbs up. He's telling me to shut up is what he's doing. But it is what it is. But that is what we collect, for, I lost my place. For court, yeah, so we collected 224,000 fiscal year, or actual fiscal year 25 up to this done was 224,000. So some days it's good, some days it's not. Intergovernmental funds is just funds we receive from state, from the county, from the school resource officer. Those are what's called intergovernmental funds. That can be, we get reimbursed for the DEA agent that we send a certain amount. We get funds, county uses our fuel pump, so they pay for that fuel. That's a fund that we get. And then, of course, the big one is the SRO. The biggest one in here you'll see is a big jump. It's really from the property that we sold. If you get an IGA and you're like, oh my God, we collected so much money last year, that was because the library property that we got bought from the state, that went into intergovernmental revenue. So if you see that, just know that's what that is. Any questions? Almost home, y'all. Now, what page is, let me just get to it. Where's the debt? I didn't have it flagged in here. Okay, I'm gonna go through the, so capital improvement, you've always seen it in Tyler, you just probably never know what you was looking at because it's a different line item. But in here, we have to spell out a capital plan. We have a 1 year and we have a 5 year. And that's what you see in here. Now, thing with capital, they're not non-funded items. You can see in this capital plan for 1 year, we have $4,194,000. That doesn't mean we're gonna spend that. That just means that's what they've called for to be spent. Now, we can do a portion of that, but we certainly can't do all that because we don't have the funds. So some of these projects that we may do, Chandler Hawk Pump Station is in here. That's one we're currently working on. It's probably estimated at $3 million. That's gonna probably take most of the money for this year out of the capital recovery fund. And then you have a police car, which will come out of SPLOST. And then you have a bucket truck for Jeremy's department, mainly for the Christmas tree that we rent, and also the one we have for the decorations is wore out. So that's in here as a capital. That's actually is in the budget. But most of these projects under utilities are not funded. The thing that we're gonna implement this year is we're gonna create a capital fund. So when we end the fiscal year and we end with a positive note with that money, we're gonna start moving that money from unrestricted to restricted. And we're gonna move it into a capital project line item that can only be used for capital funds. We gotta start building that fund because we got probably $80 million worth of fund projects over the next 10 years. There's no way we can pay for it. So, but we gotta start creating these funds. It may not be, you know, a lot of money each year, but it'll be something that we can use to put that money into to only be used for capital improvements.
Can I ask you a question on this?
Yes.
On the capital projects, you have listed under 2026 that the Logan Point Pump Station to be done. Now, I know we had a developer that was gonna redo that, and I think there'll probably be another project coming in there. So we've got that, are we paying for that, or is that something we'll end up negotiating with the builder of that project to do that?
Well, if a builder comes in and wants to make expansion and we don't have capacity, they would be required.
Okay.
But if something happens to it in the meantime and there's no developer, or it breaks or get hit by lightning, then we would have to pay for it. So Brandon anticipated that we would have to spend for it, and that's why he put it in there, because it needs to be upgraded. Right now, it has a little bit of capacity, but not a whole lot of capacity. So it really depends on what comes, and a lot of stuff flows to that pump station.
Were any of these projects listed like as on a priority scale, like?
Yes, it is. You can't see it on here, but
Okay.
in ClearGov, it breaks it down. It's ranked by the director, and then they usually pull from that list and put it on their one-year plan.
Okay.
But this just shows, this is a requirement for that award to have a 5-year, we've always had 5-year plans, you don't see it in title because they don't have the module to do a 5-year. We just put it in if you look at the line items, anything with a 5-4 is a capital expenditure, so, but this breaks it down, it shows you the pretty little map, shows you what it is, so it's really, this is a new module that we bought with ClearGov, a capital module that does nothing but capital projects. So that's what this makes this up. But yes, it's, that, if they come in and fix it, then it would, of course, we wouldn't
Okay.
need it. We'd use that money to something else. As you can see, there's plenty of projects that it can go towards.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I don't have that in front of me, Danny, but I saw at some point when I was going through this, that there's I think it's the old library pump station. It was a lot of money. When is that scheduled, or is it scheduled, or just anticipated?
I don't know if it's part of the utility aid, because it's got to be moved, because that's one of the utilities in the right of way. So that could be one of those that gets revamped.
Okay. I
That
just
and the
remember it was
Conyers
a
pump
lot.
station.
It
Yep.
jumped off the page.
Yep. It's,
Was it 20 million? What was it?
those utilities, there's a sewer line, there's a force main, a gravity sewer, a water line, and those are estimated at $6 million to move.
Okay, I knew it was a lot.
So, but yes. But, a lot of these pump stations are 30-plus years old, so. And then the rest just, we also have a portable toilet. That's those toilets that we rent. They're about $50,000 up to $100,000, depending on what we get. But, we pay about $1,400 every time we rent one. And for a 10 stall, it's like $2,500 to rent it. But it's one of those necessities, because there's so many people and our little bathrooms can't keep up, so that's why we rent those. But Christie had asked to put one in there to buy. So the way it works, when department heads do their budget, they do a capital budget as well. They submit that, and then they send them all to me, and then I'll just kind of pick what we think is the priority based off of the need.
So all these items, because there was a lot of items, they're listed here, like dump trucks and bucket trucks and all that. Can I basically assume, this is a wish list, it would still come before council, we would discuss it and
Yes,
things like that?
Yes, so, and that's in here too, and you talk about like the basics of budgets, it talks about the projects. Even though you approve them in here, they still have to come before y'all for approval. Anything over my limit has to come before y'all, unless we're talking about like power bills, but for like equipment or projects, they still have to come before y'all, yes.
But it's helpful if it's already in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's a requirement to have a capital improvement plan as part of your budget. You're supposed to have one. It's in our charter, it says we'll have one. So it's in our charter that we also have that you approve a capital budget. It just so nobody can get caught off guard and say, well, geez, I didn't know we had $50 million worth of projects we need to do. All right, now we're gonna go to the last thing, and that is debt services. It's page 366. So these are all the debts that the city owes as far as payments. I'm proud to say that we only have 3 loans, correct? This building and 2 bonds. So it's pretty impressive. A city this size only has 2 loans. So this is your debt service overview. This is just a summary. I'm not gonna bore you, but as you can see, we're currently at a AA2 rating. General fund's at a AA3, and the reason we're not at AA2 for the general fund is because the tax base is so small. That's at least what they told me. But this year we are in jeopardy of losing that AA2 back to AA3, which is negative, not positive. So as you can see there, this right here, this rating rationale, this is from Moody's. And it just talks about the funds and the net cash that was able to keep our rating where it was. If we didn't have that 16 million, we would drop the rating. Now, that doesn't mean we're bad. It just means if we go for another loan or something, we pay a higher interest rate. It's like your credit rating, your personal rating. That's what it is for government. But on further down, can you scroll up, Kyle? So per your ordinance, your 2018 ordinance that we had to adopt when we did that bond, it says that we will keep 1.2 times more revenue than we have debt. And if you can see in fiscal year 21, we were good, 22 good, 23 great, and 24 came. We dropped below it first time. That's what caught their attention. So that was what we told them, a perfect storm. We had loss of tap fees, and then we had increase of infrastructure that broke that year. Had almost 900,000 extra worth of infrastructure, plus 1.5 of of tap fees that we lost in water and sewer. That's what dropped the debt ratio. This year, we projected to be at 1.75, but then again, we don't know what's going to happen between now and end of June. So hopefully, we're going to keep that, but if not, they do have, in that ordinance, it says, if you can't account for this lost revenue, then we will raise your rates for you. Now, that's the most extreme. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But this is a requirement to show you all that it is a serious issue that we look at. So when we say we need to raise rates or do something, it's because there's a reason, not just because we want more money, but we have an obligation to the bond.
If they lowered our rating, that would increase the interest we have to pay on loans.
It wouldn't, not on the loans we have now, because we're locked in, but it
Future
could be
loans.
future, yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have a very healthy finances here, but it did get my attention. Not to say it didn't, but it did. And, you know, worst case scenario, we could take our money and pay off the 2019 bond. But my question to them was, why would I spend $2 million when I'm only paying 1.8% interest when I'm drawing 3% interest off of it? It's just, you know, it's a business decision. But if they came in and said, hey, we're going to raise your rates, and you said no, and you said, what's the alternative? That would be my alternative. That's about $500,000 worth of debt per year that we could lose. Or is it a little bit less than that? Is it that right? Okay. I'm just going off memory. There's a lot of numbers I had to memorize. And then debt by type, this just breaks it down. May want to scroll down, Kyle. The city hall, the building we're in now, we borrowed money to buy this building. We have the 2018 bond and the 2019 bond. So the 2018 bond was for the plant, the 2019 bond was for the water lines. So that's your 3 debt services that we have to the city. 1 general fund, 2 out of enterprise. And that is all I have. Now we'll open up for a public hearing, unless you all have questions. One last thing, if you want to go see the Moody's credit rating and what I just said to be true, you can find it there. And also our 24 audit, if you want to go find the audit, it's there as well. Hope you like this ClearGov. If you don't, somebody else is going to have to change it because it was a lot of work. Thank the staff, Natalie, Kyle, Susan, they helped me. When I say that this took months of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, I'm not kidding. It was a lot, everything you saw was manually entered except for the demographics. That's the only thing that came from ClearGov. Everything else was input by us.
Is it fair to say it's supposed to save you a lot of time?
It will down the road, it will.
Yeah,
Because
that's what you're going for.
the other module you don't see that makes all this up is the personnel module. Every single person, every benefit, everything was input manually. We had to create the things to input people's insurance and all the insurance that we have and all the different plans we have. So it was a huge undertaking, but I made
done.
it simpler going down the road for somebody else down the road. Any questions before you open up the public hearing? It's y'all's time. Any questions? Mayor, you want to open it up?
Okay, do we have anyone with us tonight that would like to have any comments on the next year's budget? Now's the time. I can tell you, you can see from all the information that's here, a lot of people spend a lot of time putting this together. The thing is, the cities are required to have a balanced budget every year. So is the state. However, our federal government does not have that requirement. So we see where we are there, but it's a lot of time spent on what you calculate and your revenues will be, and then you turn around and look at the other side and what you estimate your expenses are going to be. And we're pretty good on it. Some of the numbers are a little off, but then another one will be off the other way and sort of balance them out. But if you got any comments, or if anybody has $1 million, $2 million they want to donate, tonight's a good time. We take all donations.
One thing I forgot to say is this was done with the current millage rate. There's no increase in the millage with this.
That's a valid point. We have not in Loganville, your council has not in Loganville, kept the millage rate on the houses going up so drastically over the last few years. We have lowered the millage rate to the fallback rate is what they call it. And that means the city overall gets the same amount of money this year as they would have gotten last year, even if the appraisals go up. So some places have not been able to do that, but it has certainly saved our citizens a lot of property tax monies, and we're glad to be able to do that. But we are also very, very tight on expenses. We're not as bad as we were in 2010. I remember the first one I looked at, we had a police car in 2010 that was running, and you know, you've had your kids say, well, gosh, my car is using a quart of oil every week or every month. That police car was using a case of oil every month. So it was in dire need of another engine, but we didn't have the money to do it. So we're doing much better these days, and we appreciate all the citizens for working with us.
Well, Danny, I do have a lot of questions, but I'm going to not do them tonight. I can come by your office and we can go over some specific questions that I have.
Okay, anybody? Last chance.
And we'll ask for a formal adoption approval at
Next Monday.
June 16th at 6:30 in this room.
Right.
This is the last public hearing. There will be no more public hearings.
Any
You're
more?
not gonna go over it on Thursday?
Not unless you tell me to, I'm not.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah, you got to approve it next Monday. I said we wasn't having it at 6 p.m. We're having it at 6:30. It's at 6:30.
Okay, with that said, the public hearing is now closed, and if everybody wants to sit tight, we will move right into